Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here again today on this astrology, human design and gene keys channel. And today I want to do a synastry video for you guys talking about Sun-Pluto aspects in the synastry chart. So if you're not sure how to get a synastry chart, I've posted a link in the description box below on the website that you can use for that I like to use, and that's astro.com. Yes. When you have Sun-Pluto, we're talking about one person's sun. In this video, I want to address the sun conjunct Pluto, square Pluto, opposite Pluto mainly. I may touch on a little bit of the trine and the sextile, but I feel like the trine and sextiles don't make Sun-Pluto a theme or something that you really have to focus on in your relationship as much as the harder aspects do. So this is going to mean that one person's sun, when you do the synastry chart overlay, this is not your natal chart, this is a synastry, a relationship chart overlay. One person's sun is making a contact with another person's Pluto. So, for example, this may be one person has a sun in Scorpio, another person has a Pluto in Scorpio and they're conjunct. One person has a Scorpio Pluto and another person has an Aquarius sun, they're going to square, for example. And because Pluto is a generational planet, we are going to have to keep the orbs of Pluto as close as possible for this to even be felt. 5 degrees maximum is what we're looking at here. One person has Sun in 7 degrees of Scorpio. The other person has Pluto at 8 degrees of Scorpio. That's 1 degree apart. That's a 1 degree orb. That will still be possible to feel this. But if one person has a sun in 7 degrees of Scorpio, the other person has Pluto at 20 degrees of Scorpio, probably not going to really be felt, because you're not going to feel this with every single Pluto generation person. Pluto is a very slow moving planet. The next thing we have to take into consideration when we're looking at Sun-Pluto and synastry is age, maturity, and evolution of two individual people. These Sun-Pluto aspects will be harder to handle if the two people are, we could even say, younger, or haven't passed their first Saturn return, or they don't have Sun-Pluto in their own natal chart and they don't know how to work with this energy, or they have Sun-Pluto in their own natal chart and they take this to the extreme even more. So there's that, how much has this person evolved in their consciousness, in their traumas, and in their, their evolution. And this may also include, how much has two people experienced the occult, astrology, or sometimes it can be psychotherapy. That's not the occult, that's like psychology. How much are they exposed to these types of topics for the purpose of self-healing? Yes, so that's kind of what I wanted to get into and mention first. And the other thing we have to take into consideration also is that if the Sun person already has some Sun-Pluto going on in their natal chart, they may actually, in this relationship, feel more normal or used to it than somebody who doesn't have a Sun-Pluto in their natal chart. They may not sure how to work with this, shall we say. So next I want to talk about the overall themes of what happens actually when Sun meets Pluto in synastry, and then we're going to go into the individual aspects. So the overall theme when Sun and Pluto are meeting in synastry is that, first of all, the two people are going to be feeling fascinated with each other, whatever the aspect is. And I want to use the word fascination here rather than attraction, because I feel like it's more of this wow, awe, this person has something I don't have, this person ignites something within me. And of course, that can be considered as attractive as well, but it's not that attractive of like magnetic attraction, but it's like, I want to know more about this person. I want to be involved with them because they have something that I don't have. That's kind of the fascination that's coming in. This aspect in synastry is not a red flag. This is different, okay, from Moon Pluto aspects, Venus Pluto aspects, or Ascendant Pluto aspects, and even sometimes Mars Pluto aspect, which sometimes you may even look at those, depending on other things in the chart as well, to be red flags. And red flags doesn't mean that you have to end the relationship. Red flags is just a warning. But because of the power of Sun and Pluto, the Sun is ruled by Leo. It's the brightest star in our solar system. The Sun doesn't easily submit to the darkness of Pluto. That's why these two together are, fascinated by each other, and they have something going on. So what tends to happen is that the Pluto person has a part of their hidden desires, repressed desires, sexuality, money matters, intimacy issues, light up by the Sun. And of course, the Pluto person is going to like this because it's like the things that they have to hide from the world, even from themselves. They get a chance to bring that out in the presence of the Sun person. So they feel almost like warmer around the Sun. They like that light of the Sun. And the Sun person gets an ego boost from this. They're fascinated by the mysteries, by the sexuality, the darkness, the hidden stuff of Pluto. And when they shine a light on that, they feel like they get to take their hand into a vessel and it's juicy, it pulls that out, it makes the Sun person feel good. It boosts their ego in a sense, shall we say. Especially if the Sun person has Sun Pluto in their natal chart, they are gonna like to do this. Both of them can reach a state of unconditional love for each other. Of course, there's gonna be a war that they're gonna have to work with first, but if they can work through the hardships of this aspect, it does bring unconditional love, especially from the Sun person, who, if they can embrace, and of course with boundaries, but at the same time, this is going to depend on how much the Pluto person is going to invade the Sun. But if they can sit together with this, they get to love each other for the totality, the darkness, the mucky, yucky stuff of each other. Especially the Sun, loving that in the Pluto person. But the person who has the most transformation in this scenario of Sun and Pluto, I feel, is the Pluto person, who is going to have to go through a process of working with their past traumas, all of the aspects, even the sextile and the trine. But that is more natural and that's easier, but you still have to do it. So yes, for the Pluto person, it's this transformation of going deeper into themselves, working with their past traumas, doing the somatic work on their actual physical body to transform not just the mind or the emotions, but the body. If the Pluto person can do it. And the other thing we have to consider as well is if the Pluto person is going through a Pluto transit, because it could very much be that you met this, or the Sun person met each other in this relationship through a Pluto transit, and that's why it feels fated. It's because you're gonna be dealing with your own Pluto stuff. This person is coming into your life to help you with that, to bring that transformation out in you. And some astrologers will even call this a soulmate aspect because of the things that both of them have to go through together to come out on the other end, still loving each other. Okay, so let's talk about first the Sun square Pluto. So with the Sun square Pluto, yes, we have to keep the orbs maximum 5 degrees. I wouldn't say more than that, you probably wouldn't really feel it. But when the Sun is in a square to another person's Pluto in synastry, squares cause conflict and tension. So it can make the two people feel like they go into war together to fight something together. Or sometimes it can feel like they're fighting together, but sometimes it's going to feel like they're fighting against each other. That's where the tension is coming from. Okay, in this respect, what the Pluto person is going to be required to do is that, or what the Pluto person will feel is tension. So they may have feelings of possessiveness or jealousy or wanting to control or manipulate the Sun person, but squares bring a lot of awareness. So the Pluto person is going to feel this, but they're going to feel pulled to not do it. And they're going to be in this I want to really control the sun person. I could if I just say this. I know I can get them to do what I want, but I don't want to do that. And so it really causes an internal war inside the Pluto person as well. And so what I like to consider when I see this is that, does the Pluto person have major parts of their personality square each other? Like, do they have a sun square moon? Do they have sun square Pluto? Do they have moon square Pluto? Or if you are into human design and the gene keys, you can even see if the Pluto person, has planets in their conscious natal chart and their unconscious natal charts that really square each other off. For example, maybe they have a lot of Cancer in their conscious natal chart, but in their unconscious they have a lot of Aries. Aries and Cancer square each other, so their conscious part and their unconscious parts are already in a conflict inside themselves. And so when they enter into this relationship with the sun person, these conscious and unconscious parts of them are at play. So, for example, with the Cancer Aries square, right? It can almost make the person feel like, I need security from my partner. I need this attachment from my partner, and I want to control and do some manipulation so I can get that from them. But my Aries self also wants my independence, and I also know that I'm gonna get over it tomorrow. I mean, when I wake up the next day, Aries is like that fast, impulsive, spontaneous energy. When I wake up the next day, I'm not gonna really feel this anymore, but maybe I will. So it's like this tension that actually happens inside the Pluto person. Ultimately, the Pluto person is here to, throughout this relating with the sun person, learn more about their self and their identity. To learn self-control, not self-repression. Not repression, but control, meaning that usually when there's a Sun-Pluto aspect, the two people are so fascinated with each other, and this is a bond that's very hard to break. But we also need freedom, independence, and independent life. And the Pluto person can even feel threatened by the Sun's need to take independence. But the Pluto person has to also know that there may be nothing going on there. The Sun person may not have taken their attention anywhere else. But it's the Pluto person's control manipulation that can cause the Sun person to maybe want to fight back or to run away. But there's not going to be anything there if the Pluto doesn't start the drama. So there's no repression that is needed there. It's just your own self-control. Control yourself. Look inwards at yourself. Do the hard work, the necessary work of therapy, of somatic work. The Sun person. In the square, the Sun person is going to have to work on their boundaries with the Pluto person, meaning that this is going to depend on what sun the Sun person has. Do they have a, Libra sun that may not always be very strong in boundaries? Or do they have like a Leo sun that's going to be like, I need respect, I have my boundaries. But both, no matter what the sun sign or the sun aspect is, the Sun person is learning boundaries, is learning to detect Pluto in another person, is learning to say, if the Pluto person is, let's say, not so evolved, the Sun person is really, in this dynamic, teach the Pluto person a thing or two by saying that, being honest, and even by saying that this is controlling, you're manipulating me, I can see it. And that's going to now depend on the Pluto person, how they're going to handle this, how they're going to feel, and how involved they're going to be. But if the Pluto person is, shall we say, has done a lot of work and they're a little bit more evolved, and the Sun person gets defensive or feels like, they have to protect themselves, to protect their ego, now the Sun person's going to have to do their own Pluto work. Meaning that, what is it about their expression, their sexuality, that, maybe the Pluto person is trying to, investigate more into, that maybe the Sun person can share more in an intimate relating with another person? Is there something that the Pluto person is trying to intimately connect more with the Sun person? And maybe the Sun person can share that with the Pluto person, but that means the Sun person has to know their Pluto, know their sexuality, know their psychology more. And the Sun person will. The Sun person will know a lot more about their sexual, desires, about the building block of their psychology. And so in this case, the Sun person can end up having a lot of compassion for the Pluto person. When the Pluto person is working and doing their own inner work, if the Sun person is there, if the Sun person is not protective or trying to protect their ego, is understanding of Pluto behaviors, they can feel a lot of compassion and even respect for the Pluto person who is like persevering, is struggling, and is going through all these Plutonic things. Yes, so that's going to be the Sun square Pluto. Okay, now let's talk about the opposition between Sun and Pluto, in which we also have to keep the orbs at about 5 degrees maximum as well. Oppositions bring in themes of projection and sometimes things being a little bit extreme. So in the opposition, we do see the two people confronting each other, actually having war with each other. It's not like the square where sometimes they're in the war together, sometimes they're fighting with each other at war together. But the opposition is that they're standing right opposite the zodiac wheel and they are at war with each other. But this war, this enemy that the two people are actually creating, is actually an illusion. And that's the trick of the opposition, is that the war between the two of you is based on your projections of each other. There's not really anything there. If you can get to that point where you're like, we're just projecting, then you can have something very fascinating going on with Sun opposite Pluto. If the Pluto person begins to feel possessiveness, jealousy, wanting to control or manipulate something about the Sun person, the Pluto person is going to really have to understand what is triggering that and how that thing about the Sun may actually be a part of who they are. For example, if they feel that the Sun likes to flirt, the Sun has this aura of flirting with many different people, and that makes the Pluto person want to control and get possessive. The Pluto person has to now turn inwards and say, maybe there's a part of me that really likes to just flirt around a little bit in an innocent way, or likes to be a little bit flamboyant with my energy that I'm not doing because I'm consumed by the Pluto. And so maybe the Pluto person has to get in touch with that in whatever way that may mean. Maybe they have to be a little bit more extroverted, go out a little bit more and get out of their comfort zone in order to discover this light part of themselves that maybe they thought was sinful, that maybe they thought was bad and too dark to express. Because there's this theory in astrology, and I can't remember who said this, but there's this theory by an astrologer of the fact that we could even consider astrology not as having 12 zodiac signs, but as having 6 because of that opposition. An Aries and a Libra is Aries and Libra, but Libra is always going to need Aries for balance and always has an Aries part of themselves. And same with the Aries always has a Libra part of themselves that's looking to be expressed. Because there's already a lot of, with the opposition, fascination there. And so it's kind of like, it's not really the Sun, that's doing anything to you. The Sun loves you. The Sun's fascinated by your mystique, your sexuality. But they also have to be themselves. And therefore the Pluto person's gonna have to be like, yes, the Sun loves me, but the Sun is shining something on something that I thought was too dark to come out, but that I really am craving to come out. And I'm gonna have to get out of my comfort zone and see the power that can come when I take this out. And sometimes the Pluto person may have to sit with some melancholy, some deep, heavy feelings, when they're trying to control, manipulate the Sun person, and know that if they just sit with those feelings, it'll be gone eventually. So that's kind of what's happening there. And for the Sun person, the authenticity of the Sun person is really going to be brought out through the Pluto person, meaning that any sexual tendencies, need for intimacy, the way they handle their money, darkness, their psychological parts that they don't want to look at, the Pluto person is going to make the sun be in touch with those things. You know, maybe Pluto wants to try something in the bedroom regarding intimacy and sex that the sun person may actually have felt all their life it was too dark, but yet they can't wait to try it. But in the presence of the Pluto person, if they were to really try that, they would be able to feel more whole. They would bring their darkness into their lightness, whereas opposed to them just always understanding their lightness but not their darkness. No longer having this facade or living life showing on the surface anymore, because Pluto's going to bring that depth to your character, sun person. So there's so much to learn about yourself as well. So I feel like with this opposition is that both people may have to avoid like you phrases. So kind of like, you are doing this, you did this to me, you did that, or I don't like it when you do this. But get back to their own I, because it's like I said, it's a projection, it's an illusion. Get back to their own I. I see them doing this. Maybe I would like to try this. I see them doing that, or that. Maybe it's part of me. It's not so much about self-control as with the square, but it has more to do with balance. Balance of both of your internal darkness and lightness, and the darkness and lightness of this relationship as well. So let's talk about the conjunction. At the conjunction, we have Pluto and the Sun being in the same sign. In a conjunction, we're going to also keep the orbs at 5 degrees maximum. The idea of a conjunction is that these are blendable energies. They are familiar energies. Now, the question really comes from, do we want to blend Pluto into anything, or do we want to be more aware of Pluto? Because the conjunction is not an aspect of awareness. Even in your own natal chart or in synastry or in the composite chart, conjunctions are non-awareness. They blend. So it can be like two people starting a war together, but they love it. So, can resentments build up over time? I feel that it can. Depending on several different things. It can also depend on, let's say the two people start a war together, start a drama together in this relationship, but later on one person is evolving and growing out of that and wants peace, resenting the relationship and the other person. So I do feel there's a need to be a little bit more careful when it comes to the conjunction as well. The Pluto person is going to immediately feel that the light of the Sun person is exactly what they are looking for in terms of how they want somebody to bring out their darkness or the things that they are repressing. It's kind of like I always knew that I had this part of me that needs to be warmed up, and this is the exact same style or manner that I had always hoped somebody would do to bring this out of me. So we're still individual beings. No matter what aspect you have in synastry, you cannot merge completely with another person, and that is not healthy. You can merge sometimes, but you still need to have your individual lives, right? So what can happen is that the Pluto person may hold on to the Sun person to the point where maybe the Sun person feels like they're lacking their independence or freedom, but they may not feel it at first. So the Sun person is going to totally go along with it because it's a conjunction, it's a blendable energy. So the Sun person is going to love the way that the Pluto person is just holding on so tightly to them. It can feel good, this need to hold on to each other, but that's not to say it's going to be healthy or unhealthy. It can be unhealthy and feel good and then turn into resentments later on. It can be a healthy kind of holding on where individual selves, the two individual people are evolved enough to give each other that space and independence. So it can be a healthy holding on to each other. Both people have to, I feel with this conjunction, be aware, and it's not going to be easy to be aware. But I feel like it's about instinct as well. That's Pluto's instinct, kind of like knowing what is good and what is not good for the both of you, but also like researching, investigating what's normal, but what's like considered boundaries in relationships. What does that look like? What's considered, okay and not okay? What can be turned into resentments in relationships? Maybe doing a bit of more research on that. And if both people are willing to open up to that, there can be a real bonding there, a healthy kind of a bonding there, enlightening kind of a bonding that can happen. But if not, there can be resentments. So yes, with the trine and the sextile, we have all of these themes, but it's not like it's not going to be much of a war as with the other three harsher aspects. It'll be a confrontation. There will be a confrontation, but both people are offering something that the other didn't expect, but at the same time is grateful that the other person is offering. So let's say the Pluto person gets jealous or possessive, right, about something. The Sun person is going to have a way to approach the Pluto person that's not like the square, not like the opposition, not like the conjunction, where there's this feeling of there's too much like energy, too much light is being shined in that case, which can make the Pluto person feel like, I don't know how I'm going to take this. But with the trine and the sextile, the Sun person has an approach to handle this. The Pluto person has this that makes the Pluto person feel safe enough because it's a new expression coming from the Sun that is not threatening to the Pluto person. And the way the Pluto person is dealing with their darkness and their traumas and their, am I going to control this person? Am I going to manipulate? Am I not going to do that? That also for the Sun person is not threatening to them, and there can be a lighter energy involved here, but both people are still going through some kind of transformation. That's still going to happen. And the key for all aspects is going to be sitting with your entropy for the Pluto person, mainly. Because if we think about the rawest expression, I think, in the gene keys and in human design of Pluto, I feel it's gate 1. Or gene key number 1. And at the shadow, it's entropy. But at the highest destiny level, it's beauty. So being able to learning to sit with your pain, Pluto people, learning to sit with your pain, learning to sit with the entropy of these triggers within you, the characteristics or the traits of the Sun person that's triggering something within you, that can be traced back to your attachment patterns in the past regarding your family, your childhood, what was going on there, knowing that you are now living in the present. The past will only repeat itself if you let it. Getting in with your body, knowing that this entropy that's happening is a result of something in the past, but it's going to go away, and it's just a bodily energy thing. That's what I would say for the Pluto person. The Sun person, the themes for the Sun person is going to be, if we think about the Sun ruling sign of Leo, humility, compassion, being humble enough with regards to the other person's darkness, seeing them as a human being, seeing them as a transformative human being who's going through a really life-changing phase in their life when they're in this relationship with you, and empathizing with them, being in their shoe. Oh yes, that is what the Sun person is going to really be learning to do in this relationship. So okay, beautiful souls, I think that's going to be my interpretation for Sun-Pluto aspects in synastry. If you have this with a particular love interest, do comment below and let us know what your experiences have been and how you're working with it. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much for coming along. I do astrology, human design, gene key readings, as well as synastry, love and relationship readings. All the information is on my website. You can check that out. So yeah, see you soon, beautiful souls. Bye.